Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm terribly late today. I apologize. It has been quite a morning of technical issues with the browser and the computer. But anyway, I'm here now, and I think I'd like to begin today's session. Just going to gather myself, my thoughts. Well, Paint with Mesma, as you know, is a weekly session where I open up my studio to guests. I share my ideas, ongoing projects, and some of my thoughts on artists' lives, uh, quotations, inspiring ideas from other artists, and such things. So today, I want to dedicate this month of Paint with Mesma sessions to artists who come from the LGBTQ spectrum and who have inspired me in my process, in my um, time here, creating and performing and painting. And let me just clarify by saying that I am inspired by them because of their work, because of what they do. They just happen to be from the LGBTQ spectrum, or they either identify themselves as such, or they have expressed themselves in that way along the, you know, along their process, along their in their lives. So today, uh, I would like to talk to you about one such artist, an Indian woman who has been a great inspiration for me since I was a child, and more so when I went to the College of Art in Delhi to study there. And that woman is known as Amrita Shergill. Amrita Shergill was a highly and is a highly influential figure in the modern art world in India and the world, I think. But most importantly, she is considered to be the mother of Indian modern art. What we mean by modern is art that has been created in India in the 20th century and onwards, particularly painting. Why painting? Because painting was the most prominent um, expression in the 20th, early 20th century until maybe, well, all the way to the end of the 20th century, I would say. And Amrita Shergill, being a woman, uh, also had, well, she was a daughter of a Sikh man and a Hungarian woman. So she was half Indian. Her father, Umrao Singh, was a photographer, a very good photographer. And a lot of those beautiful photographs of Amrita that we see today are thanks to her father's incredible photography. I mean, she was extremely photogenic woman, and her mother was an opera singer, Marie Antoinette, not the French Marie Antoinette, but her mother's name happens to be Marie Antoinette. And she spent time in Simla, in India, and Europe, in Hungary, and in Paris, I believe. So, anyway, her time was divided between um, living and working, learning in India, and working in Paris. Now, we have to understand that Paris was the center for artists, for avant-garde art at that time. And we are talking the time period between the two world wars. Yeah, Amrita Shergill was born in 1913, and after her initial education, she wanted to be an artist. She was a rebel. When she was put in a Catholic missionary school, she said she was an atheist, and they expelled her from the school. Nobody liked that, and she had a mind of her own. When her mother took her to Europe, she rebelled and said, "I want to go back to India. I want to be there," because in her early days she was in school in Florence, and as you know, Florence, Italy, was a great center for painters. It still is, but it has been a great center for artists, particularly, all those great Italian painters who came from Florence, Botticelli or Da Vinci, who worked there, even if they were not from for Florence, they had patronage there, and they worked over there. So Amrita had a very uh, comfortable, very privileged childhood. Her upbringing was in an environment that nourished, that valued her art, her passions. And she was very lucky to have all of that. Uh, and when she went to Paris, she studied at L'École des Beaux-Arts. Sorry, I'm going all over the place with chronology because I'm not good at linear time. My brain will go non-linearly. So you just have to bear with me because I can't go in 1913, then 15, then 16. I can't go like that. I have a very different kind of a brain. So when she went to l'École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, she was, taken by the whole Parisian, um, how do you call it, the revolution in art, because Braque was creating at that time, Matisse was creating at that time, Picasso was upcoming at that time, and all this unrest of the world after World War One, you know, the existential questions of who are we as people, as a world, and what does human life mean, uh, what is of value, and the spiritual crisis, if you will, of the European world, in fact the entire world. um, uh, it was a time of great upheaval, and Amrita found herself creating in this environment and experimenting with her medium, with her paint, and with her sexuality as well. So, nowhere it is written that Amrita, or expressed explicitly, that she was only interested in women. She experimented as most artists did. Um, she was free spirited. She was a rebel. So, if to a rebel, if you but rebel with a cause, not without a cause. She was an independent spirit. I think she wasn't against or for anything. She wanted to live her life the way she thought fit, and if anybody told her to do things their way, she would object to that and say, "No, I have my own way of doing things." So much so that she also told her mother that, look, when her mother found out that she was having a relationship with a woman, she objected, and and Amrita denied it. And she said, "Well, I will have a relationship with a woman when I'm ready for it." Anyway, there's a lot of hearsay, and I'm not here to gossip about her. What I'm trying to say is that her creativity, her oeuvre of of the entire repertory that she created throbs with this vital, um, free spiritedness. And I'll give you an example. Um, I have some images of Amrita's work. By the way, this is Amrita Shergill, a beautiful um, portrait of Amrita by her father in a photograph, as you can see. So I love this image of Amrita. I think it is so telling of of her poise, her grace, her beauty, of course, but also the silent volcano that that waits inside of her. Volcano of creativity, not a destructive one. And this is another photograph of Amrita, which I think is stunning. Well, she's a stunning woman. But here is a self-portrait that she did while she was in Paris. So you can see the influence of, say, Cezanne in her work, because Cezanne had influenced a lot of artists back then, especially the Parisian artists. So you see that over here. Then this is a portrait that she did of her cousin, Sumer, in 1936. So she must have been what, 13 years old? No, sorry, 23 years old when she made this portrait. Over time, what happened was that Amrita developed her own relationships with people, and she had a unique way of expressing herself in her idiom. And she was, of course, I think she was influenced greatly by Gauguin, by Paul Gauguin, because you see the kind of use of color and composition in her paintings, like this one. You know, this she painted when she came to India, and she was quite blown away by um, the Ajanta paintings and the Kerala murals that she saw, because she said something like, one Ajanta fresco is worth all the Christian art in European um, in the European tradition. Also, there is a very funny, not a funny, but I think a very bold quote by Amrita, that when she realized that Europe was not the place for her, that she belonged to, she needed to work in India. She wanted to go back to India because that's where her inspirations lay. Sorry, and she was extremely passionate about coming back to India and working there and creating her own language in painting. And she's known to have said that Europe belongs to, I'm quoting her, Europe belongs to Picasso, Matisse, and Braque, but India only belongs to me. Unquote. So I think that's a very beautiful way of um, claiming your own identity as an Indian woman of a new world, where she is uh, going to say goodbye to the established ideas of who gets to decide who is the master, you know. And there she frees herself from those conventions of European art history, and she says, "No, I'm going to create my own history and on my own terms." And that is why I like her. That is why I like her her approach to it. And let me just say one more thing: is that we see so many male artists. in Europe, because Europe has a great tradition of painters, but they are almost all of them, with barring a few exceptions like Marie Cassatt or Artemisa Gentileschi, or there are a few couple of other artists whom we hear about every now and then. But predominantly, it's a man's world, and there are artists who are women who are very good, or who were very good, excellent artists, but to um, they never got the fame that they deserved, because for whatever reasons you couldn't even go to a salon and sketch from a nude male model, because that would have been very scandalous at that time. Anyway, so you have the father of modernism in Europe, or the fathers of of say cubism. You have Braque, you have Picasso, and then you have Gauguin and Van Gogh, and these are great artists, but they're all men. And however, the unique part about this is that in Indian um, contemporary art world, in the Indian contemporary art scene, you don't have a father of modern art, but you have a mother of modern art, who is Amrita Shergill. Even today, if you go to the National Gallery of Modern Art in India, in Delhi, um, you'll see beautiful Shergills. I mean, they are the ones who set the tone for what you are going to see there. And I think that this is a great legacy of artists, of Indian art, in Indian art, of artists like Amrita Shergill, which is often not talked about. We don't often acknowledge how great that is, how great it is that the gender of that person is not of that much of importance here, because what she created was so revolutionary for that time. And she was outspoken. She criticized the poor taste of the then collectors. She was very uninhibited in her views, as most artists are, because that's just the way we are. And I find that her style, her subject, her sensitivity towards women, because when she came back to India, her entire style of painting changed from this very Gauguin and uh, Picasso didn't have that much of an effect, although some his blue period might have had an effect on her, but not the cubist Picasso. I don't see that um, effect or influence on her work. But I find that she has been able to synthesize what a lot of modernists in India loved, to be an Indian artist and have a worldview of your own, and to contribute to that unique idiom of being Indian. And that is what Amrita, I think she set the tone for that. And that is why she is such a great influence in the art world in India and elsewhere too. I don't know if Europe recognizes her as much as it ought to. I know that America doesn't even know about her. So we are very far behind in that way over here. I live in New York, and I don't think New York, which is now the center for the art world in the entire world. It is the center. It used to be Paris, but I think that center has moved to New York, and even New York is unaware of a great artist like Amrita Shergill, except in some um, some quarters. So anyway, so here we are. This is another beautiful painting by Amrita Shergill, and it is a very well known work by her. It's called, I think, The Bride's Toilet or something like that. Here is a young woman. She is being bedecked by her companions, by her attendants, to get ready for a what do you call it? A wedding. So she is getting cleaned and anointed and beautified in a private chamber with only women as attendants. So this kind of an idiom, this kind of a tone of being sensitive to the lives of women in independent India at that time, and then bringing your academic knowledge of painting from a different continent and applying it in a way that when you create something, it becomes something completely new, something that we have not seen before. This speaks to the imagination of a great artist, and she was able to create that. There's another one that I liked a lot, and it is quite well known. And I hope I can find it. I don't know if I have. I don't think I saved it. Anyway, here's another one that she had painted, and this is, you see the colors, a lot of reds, a lot of ochres, a lot of deep browns, very earthy tones. And this is the kind of palette that you see in, say, Ajanta paintings, uh, the rock, or the Sigiriya cave paintings in Sri Lanka, which is not in Sri Lanka. So this kind of a palette is unique, and it speaks for the earth, for the sun, for the heat, in that environment. And I think Amrita was able to capture that on her canvases, because she had a great sensitivity. Again, I keep repeating this word because there have been artists who have tried to portray Indian women in certain way, uh, but few do it with the kind of sensitivity that Amrita could manage. Now, as far as her sexuality is concerned, I think that she was adventurous. She was uninhibited, and I think she was a very sensual woman. She did speak of her sensual eye often in her writings, in her letters. She says that. I think she was an extremely sensual woman, and she was attractive. I bet people were extremely attracted to her, and she, being interested in people, must have made herself available in that way. And why not? Because she was a free person. She was a person of her own will. Yes, there's a price to pay for that, and as long as we know what that price is, it's all fine. But I don't know if she would label herself as anything. In today's world, we are so interested in labels. We are interested in knowing who's what, and we put them in boxes. But Amrita cannot be put in any box. I don't think so. Yes, she was experimental, and she had her own way of um, having relationships with people. And that is the kind of spirit that that trickles into her into her canvas, into her art, into the figures, into the sensuality with which she paints, um, whether it's men or it's women. So I don't want to comment on her personal life too much because a lot of it is hearsay, a lot of it is speculation, and to me, her work is the most attractive thing about her. Her contribution to the world of Indian art is the most fascinating aspect. And why does Indian art? I think world art, because we don't have that many women artists in the world to celebrate, or whom we know, um, and whose work gets celebrated. So, in that sense, I think Amrita is a great figure. She's a shining star as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many artists are concerned, I think. And um, anyway, so I wanted to bring up this painting in my studio that I have been working on for the past few months now. It's it's called the Three Muses, and I don't know if you can see properly, but there you probably can see it. Three Muses is it's a European theme where you have these three women who are, I think, daughters of Zeus. I think so, and they are the handmaidens of Aphrodite, who is the goddess of beauty. So they assist Aphrodite in creating the kind of beauty that she is capable of imparting to the world. So this is a canvas of the three women. It reminds me of Amrita. That's why I'm showing this in today's session, is because I think that subconsciously I have tried to capture um, Amrita Shergill and her sensuality in these women. It is not something that I've done consciously, but these things happen subconsciously. And it is only after 2 months or so of making this painting that I have realized that there is something of Amrita in these women. And I don't know what it is. Maybe you can tell me. You can type your questions or comments in the comment box and tell me what it is or what it could be, what you think it might be. But for me, uh, painting this was a great joy. It's not finished yet, and I'm going to put a few things in this session for today, and then we'll continue our conversation. But it's a simple theme, there's nothing complicated about it. There are three sisters or three women uh, in a playful mood. So I do like to have a lot of subtext to my work, to my paintings, but sometimes it's just nice to make a very simple painting that doesn't have too much of a um, I don't know, complicatedness to it, complexity to it. Of course, the technique is complex. It's not a quick technique. For those of you who have been attending my sessions, you know that I work in layers. I work in a lot of paint, one on top of the layered on top of the other. So you see the that luminosity of oil colors in these paintings. So I'm going to start my work for today on this canvas. I'm going to continue working on some parts of this canvas. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, please type them in the comment box and I will be happy to answer them. Uh, this is Paint with Mesma. You're watching a weekly thing that happens on a weekend. On Saturday mornings, I come here at 11 o'clock to share my process, to share my creative ideas. And this month, I'm dedicating Paint with Mesma to artists of from the LGBTQ spectrum who have inspired me, who have um, influenced me, whom I admire, uh, whose work I admire, most importantly. So, uh, there was one more thing that I wanted to say, and I'm forgetting now. Anyway, uh, it was about Amrita Shergill. Now I'm forgetting what it was. There was one more thing. However, please let me know if there are any artists that you think I should feature these sessions on, and I'm happy to research them and do a presentation on them. But the idea for Paint with Mesma is to open my studio to everybody. Here I talk about art, artists' lives, quotes by artists, people who have inspired me and who have guided me along the way. They might be dead, but what they have said has been of great um, support, not support, encouragement. They have lifted me up. So I hope to share some of that with you, and that is why I have created the series. So for today, I'm going to go back to my canvas and start working on it. And in about 5 minutes or so, I'm going to be back. Um, and I apologize for my hair today. I had washed it and I didn't have time to uh, dress it because I had my work on my mind today and I was just not, couldn't be bothered. So, excuse my look today. It's not a very clean, refined look, but here you have it. I'm in my studio and creative process is messy and so am I. So there you have it. Anyway, so I'm going to get back to my canvas for a few minutes and then I'll be back to take questions if there are any questions in the meantime. And in about, yeah, 5 minutes or so. All right, let us listen to maybe some music. Um, on the walls you see behind me are sketches. I love to sketch. Drawing is very, very, very dear to me. I love drawing, and I find it so relaxing, and at the same time, it helps me look at the world in a different way. It helps me look at the whole world of forms of objects with new eyes, you know. And I try to do that every day if I can. Otherwise, I find that the affairs of the world get in the way and they sap my creativity. Um, anyway, back to painting. When I'm painting, I'm not very good at speaking on uh, while I'm doing my work. So you'll have to excuse me for my disappearance. Maybe I should move the camera a little closer so you can see the work. Sorry if I'm blocking your view. If I don't get close to it, I can't see anything. So maybe I should move it this way. Well, it's time for me to go. Okay, this is all we have time for today. But thank you for those of you who came. And I don't see any questions, but that's okay. You can always send me a message later and ask me anything you want about my work or any of the paintings that you have seen in these sessions. I'll be back next Saturday, and hopefully, I won't have any more technical issues next time, and that we'll be able to have another seamless session. Uh, until next Saturday, I bid you farewell. Keep creating, be happy, and happy Pride Month to you all. See you next weekend. Thanks.